All right. Hello again, adventures, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 98. And today we are doing another episode of What We Can Learn from Insert Thing Here. And today we are going to be looking at pure chaos. That's right, we're going to be talking about the Keep on the Borderlands. If anyone's wondering what in the hell this is, after Chris Perkins decided to go and retire, or actually a little bit before that, but that kind of encouraged me to go into it deep, I started thinking about some of the old modules that have kind of become legendary in Dungeons and Dragons, and specifically some of the stuff that you could actually learn from them. So that's what this entire kind of mini Sissa series is me talking about the history, the legend of some of the best known Dungeons and Dragons adventures in history, and the lessons that we can learn for as DMs and GMs to make adventures that might become as legendary, at least in the minds of our own players. So, what is the Keep on the Borderlands? Well, long ago, when the world was new, Keep on the Borderlands was an introductory adventure that was included with the box set basic version of D&D Basic, starting in around 1979, 1980, all the way up till 1982. And the adventure itself was part of technically the first red box, despite the fact that technically it wasn't red, it was more magenta, and then the real red box would come out later, and it wouldn't have an introductory adventure. It would have some other stuff. But anyway, if anyone's unfamiliar with the term the red box is a term that has basically been given to the kind of basic set, starter set, whatever you want to call it, of Dungeons and Dragons since the early 80s, because it actually came in a red box, and the design itself is iconic. It's a big red box. It's got a dragon on it with a dude with a sword and shield in front of it. Like, it's at least I think that's what the red box looks like. Before I talk completely out of my ass, whereas that's what it is. So you have this big Dungeons and Dragons fantasy role-playing set 1 basic rules. Then everything else is red. And in the very center is this big, massive red dragon and this fighter with a round sword or round shield and a sword. And I think it's been revealed since then that that's actually a lady fighter, not a dude fighter. I don't know if that was what the initial design was, but if you look at the picture, there is a very strong looking feminine look to the Kiki character. But anyway, so we talk about the Keep on the Borderlands. One of the reasons why the Keep on the Borderlands is so iconic was it was the Dungeons and Dragons module. And what I mean by that is if you started playing D&D back in the 80s, you started with Keep on the Borderlands. It's kind of, because it was basically packaged in with the basic set, it kind of had the same effect that Super Mario Brothers had being packaged in with the original Nintendo Entertainment System. If you were buying an NES, you were getting that game. So just about everybody played that game. And the same thing is true about the Keep on the Borderlands. Just about everyone in the early 80s played the Keep on the Borderlands. So it's one of the reasons why it's so iconic, is because anyone that was playing back then, or again, the Keep on the Borderlands has been updated multiple times. And for D&D 5.5, they're going to be releasing a new starter set, basic set, whatever they want to call it, that has references to the Keep on the Borderlands. I want to see, because I can't remember. Yeah. The new starter set is going to be called Heroes of the Borderlands, and it'll come with 3 booklets: The Caves of Chaos, The Keep on the Borderlands, and The Wilderness. Keep on the Borderlands not only is iconic when it came out, but there has been Return to the Keep on the Borderlands. It was reintroduced for the D&D Encounters. Return to the Keep on the Borderlands was an advanced Dungeons and Dragons module, came out in '99. For D&D 4th edition, I think the 3rd season of the D&D Encounters program, which is what the Adventurers League is now, used to be the D&D Encounters program. That season was Keep on the Borderlands, effectively. And then later on, for season 12, they went back to the Caves of Chaos, which is a big part of Keep on the Borderlands. And then again, for 5.5, they are effectively reintroducing it. So this is the adventure module that won't stay dead. And I think, again, one of the reasons why it is so popular was it was the starter D&D adventure. But one of the other reasons is this adventure is not just, baby's first D&D game. This is an instructional adventure. And what I mean by that is, because the Keep on the Borderlands was designed for new players, literally brand new players who had never played Dungeons and Dragons before, throughout the module itself, it has advice for the DMs, and it does have a little section for the players as well. But the vast majority, it is advice for the DM, not only on how to become a dungeon master, but also the things that they can do to kind of train their players to become better Dungeons and Dragons players. So not only is this an adventure, but this is a how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And even with it being, 45 years old, the techniques that they use are really effective. Again, from a training perspective, the stuff that they do and the ways that they try to introduce new ideas and the things like that is really, really effective, especially with the fact that the people that were writing these were not trainers. They were not, people that were actually skilled and trained in how to teach people how to play. They were just gamers. And yet it works really, really beautifully. So again, from a training perspective, this is probably one of, if not the best introductory adventure you could ever run for a Dungeons to get people into tabletop RPGs in general, and specifically into the D&D basic set. And the later versions and flavors of it all harken back to the idea of the Keep on the Borderlands is designed to get new people into the game. So let's talk about what the Keep on the Borderlands is. The Keep on the Borderlands is interesting for a number of reasons. Probably the first of which is the Keep on the Borderlands is not the primary place where the action is going to be taking place. The actual place that most of the action will be happening in is this area called the Caves of Chaos. And the Caves of Chaos is actually a pretty decent distance from the Keep. So one of the things that the Keep on the Borderlands actually introduced was the idea of wilderness adventures. Now, wilderness adventures, like they had rules for wilderness adventuring and things like that in the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons set, and they do actually reference If you want more rules for wilderness adventuring, go there. So they don't lay out all the rules for running a wilderness based campaign, which, if you're unfamiliar with that term, effectively, as I mentioned in my previous video where we covered the Temple of Elemental Evil, early Dungeons and Dragons was almost exclusively dungeon crawls, where you might have a home base or something like that, but going from the home base to the dungeon was busy work. You might run into, a random encounter between going from your home base to the dungeon, but that was really it. You didn't have to find your dungeon. You didn't have to explore the outlying area. You just went there. Wilderness adventuring was basically what we refer to now as exploration. And it was one of the 3 pillars of D&D 5th edition that really never got a lot of love. 5th edition went real heavy into the combat pillar and the role-playing pillar, and they never really expanded on the exploration pillar. Now, for anyone that's saying that there's no exploration in 5th edition, it's completely wrong. You didn't read the Dungeon Master's Guide. There are exploration rules. They're just not really expanded upon, and none of the published adventures really do a lot with wilderness exploration. But that was one of the things that Keep on the Borderlands did, because you had this keep that, just like the Temple of Elemental Evil, was supposed to be set wherever you wanted it to be. Eventually, it was decided that the Keep on the Borderlands actually existed in what was called the Mystara campaign setting. But in the original text, it does mention, it's like, this can be anywhere. Go ahead and put it wherever you want in your campaign world. And the keep itself is basically where you start. But once you leave the keep, there are a number of different kind of wilderness encounters, and there's an actual map that shows you the placement of the keep as it relates to the kind of ravine where the Caves of Chaos are. And it allows you to have quite a few different encounters in the wilderness. So instead of just, you go to the Caves of Chaos. Which Cave of Chaos do you want to go to first? It would be like, okay, well, as you're exploring, you find this strange-looking dirt mound. You notice that it's, kind of in the middle of this swamp. It doesn't look particularly, strange or anything like that, but it is kind of a large dirt mound. What do you want to do? And if you get closer, oh, look, a bunch of lizard men are there, and you get to deal with that. Or you find this area where there's spider webs everywhere, and you have to deal with spiders, or this weird hermit that lives with his pet cat way off in the wilderness. And so there was an actual reason to go exploring, as opposed to, okay, let's go in, let's kill things, let's get loots, and go. The other thing that was kind of unique about the Keep on the Borderlands itself was it was kind of a who's who for D&D monsters. Basically, each one of each one of the caves housed a different iconic group of monsters. Like, you had a kobold cave, you had a gnoll cave, which, if you're not familiar with gnolls, they're basically large, like, dog humanoid things. They had an orc cave. They had a cave with an owlbear in it, which was really fun. I think there was also a gelatinous cube in there to just get all of the D&D tropes. There was a secret cave with a minotaur in it, and then the final cave that had the temple to Chaos, temple. I think it was Temple of Elemental Chaos or something akin to that. There was a Medusa in there, and there was an evil cleric and undead things. Like, you really did get kind of a full swath of all the different kind of iconic monsters you generally were going to be dealing with as you went further in Dungeons and Dragons. So again, the whole purpose of this was to introduce people to Dungeons and Dragons, and the way that they did that is like, well, we're just going to give you everything. We're going to let you see every little bit we possibly can in order to do that. And yeah, because of it, again, it was very, very well remembered, and yeah, brain just completely died for a second there. So, the other thing that's kind of unique about this, the adventure itself is for characters level 1 to 3, but the party size that's recommended in here is anywhere between 6 to 9 players, which is another thing that's kind of unique. If you look at modern tabletop RPGs in general, your normal party size is between 4 and 5. And anything larger than 5 is considered a large group. Anything larger than about 7, a lot of dungeon masters will say it's just too big to be able to run. This initial adventure is balanced around the characters having a minimum of 6 players and up to 9 players all playing together. The big reason why you could handle that many players in D&D Basic while running that many players in 5th edition would be a pain in the ass is D&D Basic was exactly that. It was very, very basic. You didn't have maneuvers. You didn't really have tactical combat. You could use minis. I believe they reference minis in here, though I'm not 100% certain. They may not, actually, now that I think about it. But you could use minis and stuff like that. However, it wasn't designed around that idea, and 9 times out of 10, your turn would consist of, hey, can I make it to an enemy? Okay, I attack the enemy. Okay, my turn is done. Or if you're a spellcaster, you might go, okay, can I move away from the enemy? All right, then I cast a spell at the enemy. Or I sit on my ass because I'm out of my 2 spells for the day. So running larger parties back then was kind of the norm because the game just wasn't that complex. And again, with the emphasis on dungeon crawling and the things like that, it meant that one of the other reasons why having like an 8 or 9 person group in modern tabletop RPGs is so rough is because the role playing will inevitably be focused on just a few of the players as opposed to everyone, unless you're a really kind of comfortable dungeon master that understands how to kind of spread out the spotlight as much as possible, or if your players are just really good at playing in a large group, which is very, very rare. So yeah, overall, it's an incredible thing. You can actually purchase the original module. I literally just did it with some of the leftover credit I had in my account from people buying my custom D&D classes, the Dragon Knight, additional callings for the Dragon Knight, and the Blood Knight. I have a 4th one, but it sucks, so I don't talk about it anymore. But it was a monk subclass that just didn't work. And then Wizards of the Coast made a significantly better version of it. And so I just went, we'll forget about that one. But yeah, I think it costs like $7 or $8 bucks. It's remarkably inexpensive. And if you read it, it is definitely D&D Basic. There's a bunch of tables in here. It is black and white and then walls of text. But let's talk about the stuff that you could actually learn from this adventure. So, first things first, the big thing that you can learn from this adventure, I think, is actually when you first open the PDF, which you have the physical printing from way back in the 80s. I believe this was just a separate map or something like that. But the first thing that you see after the cover page is a map of the Caves of Chaos. It's printed on graph paper. And the interesting thing about it, each cave is its own dungeon. It's its own thing that it's technically its own map and everything. But the Caves of Chaos map shows you the ravine where everything takes place, and then it has a map for each and every dungeon, all laid out on top of each other, so you can actually see where each of the dungeons exist in relation to the other dungeons, which I find fascinating. I think that's really, really cool and interesting because, again, this part of the adventure is your standard dungeon crawl. Go to the dungeon, explore until you can't explore anymore, go back to the keep to rest up and recuperate, rinse, repeat. But you can actually see where every single one of, or how every single one of these different caves and everything interacts with each other, which is just phenomenally interesting to me. I don't know how else to say it other than this is super, super cool. Yeah, as far as what we can learn from that, the idea of your adventures and your set pieces and stuff in your game do not exist in a vacuum. They exist alongside the other stuff that exists in your world. So understanding that if you have, something simple is like, oh, well, there's a large castle here that's been abandoned, and that's going to be, the first place that my adventurers go. Okay, well, if there's a castle there, then the castle has to have a purpose. And how does it interact with the other stuff around it? Why was it abandoned? And what kind of springs up now that the castle is abandoned? A lot of times castles and keeps and the things like that exist because that's, first of all, where the Lord lived. And second of all, it was where all of the peasants would go when bad things were happening. That's why castles had walls and the things like that. There would be this kind of lower Bailey area where in times of war or combat or anything like that, the peasants from the outlying farms and everything could go right in and be protected by the big walls and the standing army of the Lord and everything like that. So when you're designing your adventures, think about how does this relate to the other stuff that the players are going to be dealing with. If this is an abandoned keep that we're going to be exploring, well, what else would have needed to be there in order, when the keep was actually useful, in order to be useful, there would probably be farmlands around there. Like the Lord would want to be close enough to his vassals so that he could protect them when necessary, but far enough away that he wouldn't have to mingle with the peasant folk. So things like that can actually help you to design more interesting and realistic things, especially if you want to start adding in like secret passages and stuff like that. Secret passages are fun, but they could be even more fun if they're part of a story. Maybe there is a secret passage between the Lord's chambers and one of like the maid's quarters. And it can be kind of written in, this was used so that the Lord could have his little trysts with the staff without anyone, becoming the wiser, or things along that line. Or maybe there's a secret passage that leads out because this particular Lord, and the reason the keep is abandoned is the Lord was a coward and wouldn't actually protect his people. So he had specifically designed an escape route for when the keep was under siege, so he wouldn't have to worry about being captured or ransomed or whatever they were going to do with an enemy Lord. So yeah, like I said, just looking at this map can give you a lot of ideas on how you can kind of create your own set pieces, even if you don't want to create full-on maps or anything like that. You just want to have kind of an outline sketch of how everything works. Think about how everything else exists in the world as it relates to your various stuff. As we go further, again, this is designed to be like they have printed all over it this little like sticker thing. It says special introductional module. It's designed to teach you how to become a DM, not how to become a better DM, how to initially become a DM. And it has all of this advice on how to encourage your players to become better players. They have an entire section that says how to be an effective dungeon master. And it's actually really good advice. Like here, I'll read you one of the paragraphs. Unlike most board games, D&D play relies on information, both from the players and the DM. In board games, the way the game is played is obvious. First one person moves, and then another. Actions are limited and choices are few. In this game, the action is only limited by the abilities of the character, the imagination of the player, and the decisions of the DM. The play will often go in unexpected directions, and the DM will sometimes be required to decide on situations not covered in the rules. The DM is the judge, and it goes on from there, kind of talking about this is how to be a dungeon master. Again, we don't get stuff like this in Dungeons & Dragons until the 2024 DM's Guide. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Keep on the Borderlands was meant to fill that space. The Dungeon Master's Guide was not meant to teach you how to be a dungeon master. The Dungeon Master's Guide was meant to give already established dungeon masters ways to just different tools that they could use. The real way to learn how to be a dungeon master was to get the red box or the white box or whatever color box they were using at that particular point in Dungeons and Dragons. So you were expected, if you wanted to learn how to play Dungeons and Dragons, to buy one of the introductory modules. And so that's what this is. The other thing that I really enjoy and that we can definitely take we can definitely learn a lot about this. There's a section called DM Notes about the Keep, which basically explains how the keep is real, for lack of a better term. It talks about, why is the keep built the way it is? How do guards interact in certain places? What are the patrol routes? And how does the populace deal with situations where the keep is under siege and things like that? Stuff that the players may or may not have to deal with, but does give a sense of realism. Again, the entire purpose of a keep is for protection. Otherwise, if there was no need for protection, you would have a significantly you would have a situation significantly more akin to like the westward settlers in the U.S. if you're U.S. based, where you would have all these people that would be going out into the wilderness and homesteading, because they didn't have to really worry about getting attacked by a rival lord or anything like that. They just had to worry about animals and stuff like that. And a good hunting rifle and knowledge of how the wilderness works was generally enough to be able to protect you and your family from most of the dangers. And to be perfectly honest, at that particular point in history, you were significantly more likely to die from exposure than you were from like getting mauled by a bear or something like that. Nowadays, I think that's still pretty darn close. Wild animals just simply don't like, nomming on people. We don't taste very good and we're annoying. So that aspect in and of itself is really good. And that's another thing that you can kind of learn from this is just, really understand that your players are going to enjoy your adventure more if you give them a reason to consider it an actual place as opposed to, oh, this is the plot device that we use to get to the next plot device. Another thing that again is a really useful thing to get in the habit of, and I've seen this in other adventures. I do it in my adventures as well, is there is what's called a rumor to the table. And it's basically in order for the players to learn more stuff about the Caves of Chaos and let them to be able, basically let them be able to prepare themselves for what they're about to be in, they can talk to the various denizens of the keep and learn a bunch of rumors. And a lot of them are like the first rumor on the rumor table is a merchant imprisoned in the caves will reward his rescuers. By the players finding that out, they now have a motivation specifically to look for a merchant in one of the caves, which, if I remember correctly, I think the merchant is in the Hobgoblin Cave, if I remember correctly. So now the players have motivation not just to go out there, but they can go, hey, we want to go rescue this merchant because we will get lots of money and we can use that to buy new stuff or hire mercenaries. That was another thing in here and this is just D&D basic and general, you were kind of expected to not just be playing your single character. You had the ability to hire mercenaries and other things like that to kind of build out the party. And they even put specific advice in here going, if there's less than 6 people, make sure that they bring a few mercenaries with them, or else the adventure will be way too difficult. And you might even want to include NPCs, because they have a bunch of NPCs in here. You might also want to include NPCs so that the fights will be as balanced as possible. But getting back to the rumor table, the other thing that I love about the rumor table is there are false rumors. And this is another thing that I think is essential to creating a real feeling world. A lie can travel halfway around the world before the truth even puts its shoes on. Lies and rumor mills and things like that spread so quickly, and the juicier the rumor, the faster it will spread. And so I love the fact that as the players are, first of all, the rumor table encourages the players to role play and actually interact with the denizens, which again was not something that was super common in your standard dungeon delve. Again, your standard dungeon delve, you just go to the dungeon, fight things, come back out. This is like, well, listen, if you talk to if you actually interact with the people in the keep, you will find out stuff that will make it easier for you to be able to explore. One of my favorite false rumors that they have in there, which apparently become a meme that I wasn't even aware of. But one of the false rumors is Bree-Yark is Goblin language for we surrender. It's not. But if the players think that, there are quite a few situations where if the players are just kind of bumbling around, they might get into a situation where they're looking down a horde of like 20 or 30 enemies. And if they don't want all their characters just dying, well, then maybe they might want to retreat. And so yelling out Bree-Yark, they might think that would help them. And apparently I didn't find this in here, but I'm assuming it's written somewhere because I didn't read the entire every single line of every single adventure. But if you go to Urban Dictionary, Bree-Yark actually has an entry in Urban Dictionary. I'll just read the whole thing here. Bree-Yark is most definitely not I surrender in the Goblin language. A forward phrase that you tell someone means the opposite of what it actually means, in order that hilarity will ensue sometime later when they say it or hear it said. In the original Dungeons & Dragons Adventure module B12, The Keep on the Borderlands, one of the random rumors that characters can be told upon starting the adventure is that Bree-Yark is Goblin language for we surrender. The DM, however, is told that it actually means Hey Rube, and is a signal for any nearby goblins to come and join in and attack. So, yeah, I love the fact that unreliable narrators exist in this, because it does require it. Again, from a teaching perspective, this instantly, or not instantly, this encourages the players to understand, hey, not everyone is going to tell you the truth. Just because you ask them something doesn't mean they're going to be truthful, and you need to think around things like another false rumor is all the cave entrances are trapped. I don't believe any of the cave entrances are trapped. So this one is probably the easiest for the players to realize that it's false, and can actually lead to a pretty interesting encounter for the players. Picture this. One of the characters discovers the false rumor that all the cave entrances are trapped. So when they find the caves of chaos, that player goes, wait a minute, guys. All the cave entrances are trapped. So I'm going to try and search for traps. You didn't detect any traps. Did I not search on it? Maybe it's in a different place. And they'll spend all of this time trying to figure out where the traps are, because they've been told that they are traps. And again, if they're new players, they probably wouldn't think that, oh, this is a lie. And so this will be that first moment that, again, with something like all cave entrances are trapped, and the truth is none of them are trapped. This is something that can introduce the idea of, hey, not everyone's going to tell you the truth. And not everyone is going to know the truth. The person that told you this might actually believe that, because that's the rumor that's been spread throughout the town. But just because they think it's true doesn't mean it's actually true. However, with all cave entrances are trapped and they aren't trapped, nothing happens, or nothing bad happens to the players if they believe that rumor and then take actions based on that, because they're not going to trip a trap that doesn't exist. But it gives them the chance to realize, oh, they lied to us, and now they will kind of question every rumor that they had, but they weren't overly punished for it or anything like that. Whereas the Bree-Yark one, very much so, that might be one where that's the one false rumor that they get, and they find out that when they say Bree-Yark, and then a dozen more, goblins could come in, they go, I think something's wrong. So, yeah. It's another really great lesson to learn from this adventure, is the idea of setting up your party to fail is not actually a bad thing if it's done in the right way. I've said this many times before. Failure is the best teacher you will ever have. Success is a horrible teacher. It lies to you. It makes you think you're good at things that you're not. It's just not good for you. But failure is great. It doesn't lie. It tells you, hey, you were wrong. And if you use failure correctly, you can use it to grow and learn significantly faster. So setting up your party to fail, a lot of people will consider that as, oh, you're trying to punish them. No, create a situation where the party can fail, but it won't end the game. It won't screw them over completely. It'll just give them a chance to experience failure and learn from it. It's one of my rules for training. When you have a new trainee, you need to put them in an environment where they aren't just told that failure is okay. They are encouraged to fail. because they will learn their job significantly better. And in order to encourage them to fail, you have to put them in a situation where failure will not negatively impact them majorly. Like if they do something wrong, they'll get fired, or if they do something wrong, they'll lose the company thousands of dollars or something like that. Create a situation where they can fail with very little consequences so that they can learn. And that's what all the cave entrances are trapped is. It is an invitation for them to realize they have been lied to without screwing them over. If you flip it to where the rumor is none of the cave entrances are trapped and all of them are not only trapped, but they have very, very deadly traps, they will learn the same lesson. We can't trust everything that we hear. However, it is a significantly more costly lesson, and it can make them resentful of you, because now it's not the townsfolk are lying to them; it's you personally are lying to them, and that can create resentment and kind of a player versus DM mentality. One of the other things that's kind of unique about this. The DM, as part of character creation and everything like that, you're supposed to give each one of the players a single rumor that their character knows, that the players themselves get to choose whether or not they want to share that with other people. And this is one of my absolute favorite things to do in any campaign that I run. Literally every single campaign that I've ever run, I like to do one-on-one character building with my players. I don't always do entirely one-on-one character builds, but I always have at least one kind of private conversation. And one thing that I try to have every single character has is some secret that only their character knows. And I leave it up to the player as to how long it takes for the rest of the characters to learn that. In Realms of the Wild, my first Zelda campaign for Zelda Universe, we actually had kind of a running gag for years about one of the characters, Zulta. The player, Ilea, and I spent an exorbitant amount of time creating her backstory. And there's actually a really, really dark backstory that I won't get into here because there's a few subjects that can be triggering to people. Suffice it to say, bad things happened to Zulta when she was younger. But when the players all meet, which they were brought together effectively by fate, or at least that's what they thought. When the players meet, none of them know anything about the rest of them. And so, like I said, for like 3 years, nobody knew anything about Zulta. And anytime we would get close to learning something about Zulta's past, she would come up with a reason to go somewhere else or derail the conversation or something like that. And it, like I said, it took 3 or 4 years out of the 6.5-year campaign for anyone to learn anything about Zulta, which was unbelievably enjoyable. Just to watch everyone going, well, what does it mean? What does it mean? And so something as simple as each player gets a single rumor or a single piece of information that they alone are aware of can be really empowering to the characters because it gives them a sense of ownership over their character. And by sharing the information with other players, they provide a unique benefit to the party that literally no one else can have because nobody else knows this rumor. So yeah, again, another really, really great thing that you can learn from Keep on the Borderlands is secrets are good. You know, secrets are no fun. Secrets hurt someone. Not in tabletop RPGs. Give your players secrets. As part of character creation, have your players go, and what's one secret that nobody else knows about your character? Or the inciting incident of the adventure. Like that's basically what happens here with Keep on the Borderlands. The inciting incident, each character is given a different piece of the puzzle or a different thing that they know about this that can be just as effective. And it really allows the players to feel important because they're going to know something that nobody else knows. Yeah, they do. They have a map of the keep later on towards the end of the actual booklet, which the booklet itself is impressive, or it's actually in the middle of the booklet. The booklet itself is impressively short. Like it is a grand total. It's less than 30 pages, or maybe exactly 30 pages, because some of the pages are unnumbered. But it's remarkably short. But because of how much stuff is in here, this is an adventure that can run for months, despite only being about 30 pages long. Just because each one of these caves and the things like that can take multiple sessions to get through, and other things like that. Yeah, having I learned this the hard way. Giving the players maps of where they are will increase the creativity of the players exponentially. Especially if you could create maps that are as realistic as possible. And what I mean by that is if there's a house on the map, then that house actually exists in the town and the players can go to that house. Or if there's a wall, the players can interact at the wall and it works the way that a wall is supposed to. Or if there's like set dressing, like maybe there's a pile of hay in a corner in one of your maps. Well, that hay really exists there. And so by when the players are doing something, maybe they pissed off the guards. They go, "Oh, there's a bale of hay there, right? Yeah." Or there's a pile of hay there, right? Yeah. I'm going to hide in the hay from the guards. Those are things that couldn't or would be significantly more difficult to happen without having a map. So creating a map or something to help the players to understand where things are in relations. And one of the unique things about D&D Basic is actually it was technically the players' jobs to make maps, not the dungeon masters. And they talk about that in here, encouraging players to create maps and things like that, and particularly not to correct them if they make the map wrong, because that's part of being a player, is you're supposed to be able to make your own maps. So yeah, having maps, if for nothing else, then for you to be able to understand spatial awareness, or to have something for the players to actually be able to interact with and go, "Oh, I want to go here," or things like that, is really, really effective. That's not technically how they use them here. Here, it's mostly just for the DM to have some kind of spatial awareness so that they can describe things for the players, and it's very, very useful in that aspect. But it's just as useful to actually put the map in front of the players and allow them to be able to use it to decide what they want to do next. And especially with the wilderness aspect of this campaign, giving them a map of the wilderness means that they can choose, okay, well, we want to go here. Okay, and as you go there, you find this and that, and this is where the spiders are, and other stuff like that. Maps are essential for the exploration aspect of tabletop RPGs. One of the other things that I really, really enjoy about this, that we can definitely learn from this, when you get to the Caves of Chaos section, they start talking about the various caves themselves, and they give a few more tips. Things like monsters learning from experience. Basically, they say things like, if player characters use flaming oil against them, allow the monsters to use oil as soon as they can find something. One of the super effective combos you could use in basic D&D was you would hurl a flask of oil at someone, it would break, and then you would throw a torch at it or something, and they would be set on fire. It was a very cheap-ish when you compare it to something like Fireball. It was a cheap kind of area of effect fire attack that you could use. And they specifically go, yeah, monsters aren't morons. If they see the players doing that, then they'll probably figure it out too. Anything the players do, the enemies should be able to do as well. They use the same rules. Another thing that they to talk about in here, they go tribal alliance and warfare. Effectively, each one of the groups of different creatures has their own alliances and own enemies. And they specifically mention in here, if you have a smaller party, encourage them by dropping hints as they're going through here that there is internal strife between the groups, because one of the ways that you can make up for a small party size is by convincing maybe the bugbears or the hobgoblins and the orcs to kind of go at it, spreading rumors of, I heard the orcs were thinking about expanding their territory into the hobgoblin caves. What do you guys think about that? What? The orcs are going to come here? We shall kill them! Ah! Stuff like that can be really, really cool. And it is, it's a difficulty setting effectively. And it specifically says in here, if you have a really large party, you can just completely ignore the idea that these groups are kind of at each other's throats, because then it'll make it too easy for them. But if it's a smaller party, or you just want to kind of encourage the idea of role-playing instead of just murder hoboing anything, start dropping notes. When they're sneaking around, have them accidentally overhear a conversation where, one of the orcs is talking about how much the hobgoblins just annoy the hell out of them, and how it'd be so great if they could just go and attack them, or something like that. Or maybe have them find really crude writings that shows a battle plan for how the goblins are going to take over one of the Knoll caves or something like that. Again, these are really, really great ways to instill in the players the idea of, hey, this is more than just me go in, me kill things, me collect shinies. If you actually search rooms and you actually look for things, if you're sneaky, you will be rewarded. And by rewarding those actions with, by the way, guys, here's some stuff that you can do to make the game easier, you are basically using positive reinforcement to encourage them to have better player habits. Like, one of the most annoying things that can happen to a dungeon master is they can sit there and create all of these, amazing characters and stuff like that, and these bosses and enemies and things like that have really unique, interesting backstories, and the players just come in and go, we killed them all. It becomes really, really frustrating. And it also means that if you want to create situations where the situation is stacked against the players, which does happen, if the players just are always just running in and killing things, well, when they get to that first encounter where they are where the deck's stacked badly enough against them that there really isn't a chance for them to win with just a pure brute force tactic, well, at that point, if they haven't learned that lesson, they get to make new characters, which isn't really fun in any way, shape, or form. So again, by kind of encouraging the players, and even if they're not looking for things. You could very easily, as you are wiping the blood off of your blade, you accidentally step on a piece of paper, and as you and it sticks to the blood on your shoe. And so as you're picking up your foot to take it off, you realize that this piece of paper has attack plans for one of the nearby caves. Apparently, the goblins were intent on invading the Knoll Cave. You go, oh, wait a minute. Could we use this to our advantage? Even if the players aren't actively looking for it, you can insert little bits of information like that in there to encourage them. Oh, maybe if we learn more, we can learn more things. Because bare minimum, they can go, well, wait a minute. Does that give us a map of this cave so I don't have to draw the damn thing myself? Maybe it does. Who knows? So, yeah. The other thing I really liked in here, and I can't remember where it was, but one of the things they talk about, I think near the end, is the idea of prisoner exchange. The Temple of Evil Chaos. That's what it's called. Temple of Evil Chaos. One of the things they talk about in here is the idea of prisoner exchanges and ransoms. Basically, it gives you an idea of how to deal with either a partial death of the party or a TPK, where instead of the players all dying, some of them are set to be ransomed. And they specifically state in here, for ransoms and things like that, what you can do is have, when the players are getting really low, where it's obvious they're not going to win this fight, have the enemies take a few of them hostage and then let the rest go, specifically saying, hey, you don't want us to kill these guys? Go bring us back this amount of money. They recommended here, I think it's between 10 and 100 gold pieces per person, or a single magic item per person. But again, great advice about how to deal with a TPK without it being a TPK. As a dungeon master and as a player as well, there will be a point in a fight that's going badly where you realize we're not getting out of here. And it's generally long before all the players are dead. And so as soon as you realize that, you can start narrating things. You watch as one of the orcs goes up and picks up the limp, unconscious body of your elf of a friend, holds a sword up to their neck and goes, all right, now we talk. And combat stops for a moment, and he goes, we want money. You want friend? You bring us 10 gold for each one, or we kill them all. And the other thing that I really, really like about this is they specifically mention if the players do pay the ransom, it should affect the standing of those groups. Maybe that particular group gets extra members. They specifically say they get between 2 and 12 additional units that now inhabit that place, because by taking prisoners and getting a ransom, they are now looked upon more favorably than the other ones. So another thing we can learn from this is actions have consequences, and this is a really, really simple way to introduce that mechanic. The other thing that happens in here is they talk about the idea of how long does it take for the dungeon to effectively restock itself. If the players go and clear out half a dungeon and then have to go back, well, how many more kobolds come back to kind of reinforce them in the single night they're away? Maybe they stay away for a couple nights, a week, multiple weeks, because they're doing other things. All of those things will affect how it is. The world keeps going even if the players are not interacting with it. And so by having things like that, where it's like, well, if you leave for a week for whatever reason and then come back, well, yeah, you're going to have to re-clear out rooms because they got reinforcements in that time. And this idea of ransoming off player characters is a really, really effective way to kind of to teach them that, yeah, just because you're not interacting with them anymore doesn't mean that they're just waiting for you to come back. This world exists when you're not there. So, yeah. One of the things that a lot of people don't like about Keep on the Borderlands is it is very much bare bones because, again, it's designed to be a set of tools that the DM can use to create their own adventure. But things like, I mentioned, the tribal alliances in warfare. They mention that these groups are kind of at odds, but they don't tell you specifically what the players can do. Like, they don't even give suggestions about what the players can do to incite these rivalries. That's left entirely up to the dungeon master. Same thing is true about the ransoms and other things like that. Like, they will give tiny ideas, but they expect the dungeon master kind of fill in the blanks, which, again, from a how to learn perspective, is really essential for a new dungeon master to learn. The idea of looking at something and then being able to fill in all the stuff that's not explicitly stated is really an essential skill for a dungeon master. And it's something that's kind of been lost in more modern tabletop RPGs in general, where most pre-written adventures will do everything they can to tell you exactly what all the players can do and give you an exact path to follow and everything. And they really leave very little to the dungeon master. Whereas this old school stuff, they would leave a lot to the dungeon master. Basically, this entire booklet is a collection of encounters with a little bit of story added in to give an explanation for why the encounters exist and the things like that. And I guess that's probably the most important thing that we can learn from the Keep on the Borderlands is basically how to use someone else's work to create your own. And this is something I think a lot of modern DMs, especially modern DMs that have been playing for a really, really long time, I don't know how this idea became kind of mainstream in the tabletop RPG community in general. But there is this kind of unwritten rule that true DMs create all their own stuff and they don't rely on other people's work. They are so good that they can create everything they need themselves. And that's just not how tabletop RPGs have ever worked. Again, we look at one of the most popular introductions to the most popular tabletop RPG in existence. And it specifically is written in a way that, hey, here's a bunch of things that we designed so you don't have to, so that you can use them to create your own story. This entire adventure was built upon the idea of use as much or as little of it as you want to be able to tell the story that you want to tell. And I think it's a really, really toxic mindset that has become, like I said, extremely prevalent among modern game masters in general. It's the reason why we have D&D pundits on YouTube that never read the Dungeon Master's Guide and just said, well, 5th edition doesn't have any tools for Dungeon Masters. Yes, they do. They have tons of them. They're in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Well, I don't read that because I don't need to learn how to be a Dungeon Master. I am already an amazing Dungeon Master. Why would I want to use someone else's work when I can create it myself? Because they've done the hard part already. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every single time you decide to drive somewhere. It's a waste of time. Somebody already invented the wheel. It's a really nice invention, and it works remarkably well. And the wheel that you're going to design probably isn't going to work nearly as well as the one that was play tested by hundreds of people and has been in use for forever and ever and ever. So yeah, if you only take one thing away from the Keep on the Borderlands, which a lot of modern reviews of the book will actually state this as a bad thing, that there's not a lot of handholding here. You are expected to create your own layouts for certain buildings and your own story for how all of this is going to work. Like, this is a collection of encounters. It is up to you, the DM, to take this from just a collection of ingredients and turn it into an actual adventure. And if you can learn to do that, you will be a significantly better game master, dungeon master, whatever you want to call it, than both people that have to have something spelled out to them in order to run it, and the people that are so incredibly abhorred with the idea of using someone else's work. If you can figure out how to do it effectively, and running this module will definitely teach you how to do that, you will be a better dungeon master than both those groups, because you can do a little bit of everything, and because you don't have this hang up about the idea of using pre-written stuff, you will be able to do a lot more because you don't have to design everything yourself. So yeah, that is the Keep on the Borderlands. I became familiar with the Keep on the Borderlands because there is a Dungeons and Dragons Online module that allows you to play through the entire adventure series. And it's actually really good. Dungeons and Dragons Online is just great, guys. You really should check it out. It's free to play. It's super fun. But yeah, that's where I became familiar with it. And then I started just finding more and more examples of it returning. And I eventually became kind of enamored with it because it is an exceptionally well-designed module. And it has informed so much of what modern Dungeons and Dragons is and modern tabletop RPGs. Yeah, interested to hear from you guys. First of all, do we have anyone that either owned the Magenta box or a physical copy of Keep on the Borderlands sometime in their lives? And do you guys have strong opinions either way? Do you think that Keep on the Borderlands is overhyped and really isn't all that great? Or is it one of your favorite adventures ever? And you love it. You're really looking forward to Heroes from the Borderlands coming out later this year. Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's going to be all for me today. I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.